After a boy named Bailey discovers he's a mutant, Bailey immediately goes with his parents to Professor Xavier's school to find out what his powers were. However, all of Bailey's excitement is destroyed when he hears Beast say that his power was basically to explode himself once and then die. Bailey then gets deeply saddened, realizing he had the worst superpower of all. But after deciding to leave, thinking that at least he still had his parents, a sentinel suddenly steps on them by accident and completely crushes them to death. Beast rushes to comfort the boy, and after the sentinel is contained, Bailey goes to live and stay at Xavier's school. Jubilee then starts showing Bailey around, and he also meets several other students like Rags and her brother Riches, who could turn anything into solid gold. Beast now tries to cheer him up by putting Bailey as a helper for various mutant teams, but everything goes wrong when he gets traumatized by the missions and ends up failing in every single group. Bailey then heads into a small forest to grieve his situation, until Rags suddenly appears and says he could vent to her. However, after Bailey opens up about how depressed he was with everything that happened, Rags reveals herself to be Mystique in disguise this whole time, quickly kissing him and promising she would recruit him soon, saying she knew what it felt like to be different from the other X-Men. He then remains in total shock for several days until he finally receives a message from Mystique, which was simply asking him to eliminate Professor Xavier, and although Bailey just ignores the message and tries to move on with his life, he eventually gets kidnapped and brought before Magneto and his team. Magneto then tries to convince Bailey to use his power to kill Xavier, saying that was the only way for his life to have any meaning, before knocking him out and sending Bailey back to the school. A little later, after Bailey gets into a fight with Riches during a mission for being called useless, both are scolded by Storm and taken to speak with Professor Xavier. After Xavier reprimands them to control their emotions better, Bailey asks Xavier what the true meaning of all this was, and Xavier calms him down by saying there wasn't one, and that all they had to do was try to be good people. Bailey then feels comforted by Xavier's words, and decides to confess Magneto's plan. However, as he reveals everything, Xavier begins to choke, and ultimately dies anyway, revealing that Riches was also part of the plan, and decided to kill the professor by choking him with gold. Several years pass, and while Bailey aged and sank deeper into depression, Riches used his powers to control the entire world. But after Bailey receives an invitation to Riches' massive birthday party, Bailey comes to the conclusion that his life was truly never going to get better, and decides he should go to that party to do one last thing. As soon as Bailey arrives at the building, he immediately goes straight to the top floor to meet Riches, who says he only invited him so Bailey would finally admit how much of a failure and useless person he was. However, Bailey quickly grabs his head and says he still had one last thing, finally using his superpowers and blowing himself up along with Riches and his entire empire.